Good morning on this Sunday, May 9th, and a happy Mother's Day. Welcome to the Georgia Gang. A shocking announcement from Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. She will not run for a second term. Governor Kemp makes a trip to the U.S. border with Mexico, and yet another twist in the search for a new chancellor of the University System of Georgia. Phil and Kathy are here along with Bobby Capel, and we're working to get Martha Zoller tuned in. The debate and discussion begin right now.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
It is abundantly clear to me today that it is time to pass the baton on to someone else.
Shocking news in the city of Atlanta as Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms announces she will not run for re-election.
This is a decision made from a position of strength and not weakness. I've raised the money. I had the most successful fundraiser of any mayor in the history of this city with President Joe Biden. I polled it. Nearly 70% of the people in this city still like me.
We're going to get right to it because it was an emotional announcement, Kathy. You know, you were city council president. You ran for Atlanta mayor. Were you just as shocked as everyone else?
Yeah, I was. I mean, she's not wrong when she said she's raised a bunch of money and she, you know, her polling shows that she's pretty popular in the city, contrary to the critics, and I am one of them oftentimes. So it's been an extraordinary 4 years for her. It's been really, really difficult for any mayor, and I'm not sure that she's enjoyed the job terribly much. So even though I'm surprised at this particular point in time, I'm sort of not surprised because many of us expected this announcement some months ago.
Phil, you know, she was talking about some internal poll numbers that had her at an almost 70% approval rating. She would have had the backing of the president, who had already helped her raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. So why do you think the change of heart?
She made the right decision. I think she, in spite of poll numbers, you know, I think in politics, it's kind of a given that your polling is going to be pretty good until your first negative ad appears about you, and then it generally goes down. But I think that public safety and crime had to be on her mind. I do agree with Kathy. I don't think she particularly enjoyed the job, and she wasn't that good at it, frankly. Personally, she's very nice, but when you look at a 60% spike in murders just since the last year, when you look at the violent shootings coming up, we never did get a permanent police chief. I think it was a mistake just to make the interim chief, Rodney Bryant, chief. I think that we should have had a nationwide search, and a lot of people did, to get the best, to get this under control. And so she's got a city council president, Felicia Moore, who's running. That's a very viable candidate that would have been a big challenger to her. I think she felt like it's time to move on.
Well, Bobby, you know, she made it clear in her news conference about not going to Washington because she didn't think the person available would be ready for the job. And of course, she was referring, of course, to the Atlanta City Council President, Felicia Moore, who is running for mayor, as Phil mentioned. But what did you think of her announcement, of her decision? She's had a lot of critics in Buckhead, especially. They've been very vocal about the fact that they wanted her out of office. But the fact that she has stepped aside, it's quite a courageous decision.
Oh, this is truly shocking, and it sets in motion a political earthquake here in the Atlanta political scene on both sides of the aisle. And the fact is, I can't get inside her head. What I can do is echo what she said, which is our firm had even seen the same poll numbers that she referred. So it wasn't just internal numbers that showed that. She was in a very strong position, and she had raised enough money and was going to continue to raise enough money to be in the dominant position in this mayoral race. So I'm really surprised by this announcement. I've heard rumblings for the last week or so. So in that way, it's not totally shocking, but it is definitely surprising. As for what she does next and why she does this, I don't know. That's going to be up to her. But I think she leaves gracefully. I believe that there is some work to be done on the crime front in Atlanta, but I don't think that was the reason she did this. I disagree with Phil on that. I don't think this must have had something to do with something that she had inside her head and her family.
And Phil, there is a lot of work to be done, especially when it comes to crime, and it's kind of her decision to, let somebody else take the reins, for this. Let's talk about this political earthquake, as Bobby puts it. Does this mean that President Felicia Moore, Council President Felicia Moore, is the front runner?
She is the front runner now, Lori. I would agree with that. You also have Denton's attorney, Sharon Gay, that, in my opinion, came in late, but I do agree with my colleagues here. I think that it does change everything, and so perhaps Sharon Gay can raise some money, perhaps that she can expand a base. She really doesn't have a base, and I think there'll be newcomers coming in. So I do think, though, that one of the factors is the new sheriff of Fulton County, Pat Labatt. I think that the fact that Keisha Lance Bottoms and the sheriff got into it over the jail. The mayor has been trying to close that jail, which is foolish when you have a violent crime wave. And I think the sheriff has tried to do the right thing by sending in more deputies to the city. Atlanta's police force is 400 officers below strength. And you just can't continue to be running a city and claim you're for public safety. And so I just think all of these factors now lead some other candidates to look at it and say, I can fix this city.
Kathy, is one of those other candidates former Mayor Kasim Reed?
Could be. I hear, both sides that, yeah, he's totally in, and other that he's got pretty high negatives, and so he's not. I think you're going to contemplated running when they thought she was going to go to Washington, reevaluate. I think there'll be people from outside city government that will jump in. I don't think anybody should look at Felicia Moore and Sharon Gay as sort of the front runners because they got there first. I think this race totally remakes itself over the next several months, and qualifying's not till late August. So anything could happen, and reminding them, just calm down, it's going to be different, and I think we'll see it play out over the next couple months.
Bobby, you're in these political circles, in the Democratic political circles especially. Who else do you think puts their hat in the ring? Could it be an outsider?
Yeah, there's a lot of folks who are interested in potentially doing this now that may not have had any interest if Keisha Bottoms was still in the mayor's seat running for re-election. So I agree with Kathy that the fact that Felicia Moore and Sharon Gay are already in does not give them necessarily a ticket to the dance. You're going to have a whole bunch of people looking at this again. And as far as Kasim Reed and his negatives, I do believe that he does have higher negatives. I agree with that, but I also think he's got high enough name ID to potentially get himself into a runoff. Now, could that be problematic in a runoff? Yes, it could. But if you're Kasim Reed sitting there eyeing this, deciding whether I could do this or not, he has to also take into that account that those high negatives also mean he's got some high name ID as well, which is not necessarily terrible for him. As far as other candidates, I think you're going to see people from the private sector. I think you're going to see people from the outside world that are going to come in and jump in this race, or at least take a good close look at it. People that you hadn't thought about before. I don't want to get into names because I don't want to betray their confidence, but a lot of people are looking at this race now that would have never even thought about this perhaps a month or two ago.
Oh, we like to hear the scoop, Bobby, but I won't hold you to it. All right, thanks, everybody. We're going to move on. Coming up, Governor Brian Kemp gives us a glimpse into the 2022 campaign as he heads to the border.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Email them at georgiagang@foxtv.com.
This week, a huge development in the Rayshard Brooks case after Atlanta's Civil Service Board ordered the reinstatement of Garrett Rolfe, saying he was denied due process. Phil, this was a big story this week.
And it was a big victory for justice, and it was a big victory for Officer Rolfe. He had been treated horribly. I've always said, and I think, and I appreciated what Kathy said last week, you have to have due process for law enforcement officers, whether they're doing right or wrong in shooting cases. That's how you have to reassure and get morale up, especially in the Atlanta Police Department. And unfortunately, Mayor Bottoms doubled down actually in her Friday press conference. She said she had no regrets of firing officers on the spot because of community outrage. You shouldn't go with what the mob says, you should go with due process. And I hope some lessons have been learned, and I actually hope Mayor Bottoms reevaluates that. But the Civil Service Board actually reinstated the officer with back pay. They also reinstated 2 other officers that were summarily fired without due process. And I think that's a good thing. Maybe that'll help police morale, and I would talk to all of the law enforcement officers in the city of Atlanta. Hang on until next January, and maybe you can get a mayor that'll support you.
Kathy, I just want to get your thoughts on this because I like going to you because of the inner workings of Atlanta City Hall. Were you surprised by this decision?
No, because I feel like, once you look at the way the processes are laid out and, kind of go over how any employee should be treated under the circumstances, and, you can see how the Civil Service Board got to that decision. I think, last summer was unprecedented. That's a word that's been overused, but it was a very challenging time for people in leadership on the front lines, and mistakes got made. But even our new DA, Fonnie Willis, is struggling with trying to figure out how to bring justice in a fair way after the complications that the former DA presented in the issue. So there's some unwinding to go through to achieve justice in this situation. So I think we've just got to reset and keep moving.
All right, I want to switch gears now. A surprise trip to the border by Governor Brian Kemp. He visited Georgia's National Guard troops, but also sent a message to voters about what is sure to be a huge issue in the campaign next year. Martha Zoller, we have you. Welcome to the show. Sorry for the technical issues, but your thoughts on the governor's trip to the border?
Well, I think it was appropriate for him to do that. It is a big issue that is going to play out because, we talk a lot about what border states are, but really every state in the United States is a border state now. And so he's showing that this issue is important to him, and he showed support for the National Guard. So I support him going to the border.
Bobby, your thoughts?
Well, I think if he's trying to shore up his base, which he is obviously trying to do after the nightmare that was Donald Trump rolled through his state last fall, this is probably the best move for him politically to do it because he knows where the Trump voters lie on border security and wanting to ensure that that's taken care of. So I think this is an obvious move for him as he now faces a Republican primary challenge. And I'm not surprised at all that he would do this. I expect him to lean into this issue as we come forward over the next year and a half.
All right, one more issue to get to here. The AJC released a poll this week that showed 1 out of 4 Georgians say they won't get the COVID vaccine. About 2/3 of them Republican. Why so much skepticism, Phil?
Well, I think that people are trying to wait and see what's going to happen with the vaccines. I'm vaccinated. I think that the Biden administration has set a goal of like 70% of adults are going to be vaccinated by July 4th. I think that goal probably will be met. I also think that we're getting back to normal, and I think that people get flu vaccines. I think you'll see people, adults, getting more vaccinations. I just think there was a wait-and-see attitude.
Kathy, I took a poll of all of us. We've all had our shots, but why the skepticism so much out there?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we live in a country now where everybody is their own island. If I think about the World War II generation and the sacrifices they made, people didn't say, I'm not going to pull my blinds down because I don't want the government to tell me what to do. I'd rather have somebody get shot from a U-boat. I didn't say that very well, but you know what I mean. At some point, we just got to decide we're going to take one for the team. There is nothing to be learned about these vaccines at this point. Hundreds of millions of people have had them. They are perfectly safe. They're safer than most vaccines. We've had those of us who are of a certain age, and I really hope people will think about how we can all row together and put an end to this so that we can get about our lives for the long term.
Well, the Braves are back at full capacity this weekend, so it's nice to see some sense of normalcy. Thanks, everybody. Coming up, the search for the chancellor of Georgia's university system hit another snag. We'll discuss straight ahead.
Join the discussion on the Georgia Gang Facebook page and watch past episodes on the Georgia Gang YouTube channel.
The executive search firm charged with helping to find the new chancellor of the university system called it quits this week in this ongoing saga. Martha, former Agriculture Commissioner Sonny Perdue's name keeps getting thrown out, but how much controversy surrounds this decision and what's going on?
Well, I tell you, I think I said a few weeks ago on this program, I think ultimately what's going to happen is that Secretary Perdue is going to probably be appointed to this position. I think this is a problem that has been made out of nothing, and it has been handled badly on multiple sources. And, you know, we just got to get back to putting things that are important in the first place, and who is going to be the best person to run the Board of Regents, be the chancellor. Because being the chancellor isn't just about running universities. It's about understanding how the wheels work, how the trains run. I still think that Sonny Perdue is the front runner in this, but at the same time, I think the Board of Regents is doing nothing to help themselves right now.
Bobby, some say the former governor lacks experience in higher education, but he did run the state of Georgia, and he was U.S. Agriculture Secretary.
Yeah, I don't necessarily buy the education argument as an experience issue for him. There are plenty of former governors and former members of Congress who are chancellors of university systems around the country, both Democrat and Republican, a totally normal role for these folks who are coming out of politics to go into. I think the issue perhaps for him may lie within the fact that the specific administration he was a part of, in that the Trump administration has become so toxic and unpopular in certain places that it's rubbing off on people that participated in it, whether they like it or not, even if they had a resume prior to that.
Phil, do you think that could be the case, his close ties with former President Trump?
No, I don't think so. I want to go back to how the process started. The Board of Regents, of course, oversees all 26 of our public universities and colleges in Georgia, and they started off right. I think it's unfair to criticize the board. They did a nationwide search to get the best and the brightest for chancellor. Of course, Chancellor Steve Wrigley is leaving in a couple months. And then all of a sudden, Sonny Perdue's friends and allies did Sonny Perdue a great disservice. They leaked his name. He could have applied. He's qualified. He could have applied along with everybody else, and to keep it confidential. And then, as always happens, you get your 3 finalists, and then you pick somebody. Well, naturally, the search firm left all of the other candidates that wanted to be chancellor. It blew up the process. They didn't have any more candidates after the Perdue name was leaked. So they're going to get a new search committee, which the regents should. I think that Chairman Shalendra of the regents and the other regents will probably, I would guess, put in an interim chancellor and start the process over again.
All right, I'm going to move on because House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy was in town this week meeting with Cobb County business owners who are losing out on a lot of money after the MLB announced they would move the All-Star game because of Georgia's new voting law. Kathy, I think it's clear Republicans are not going to be letting up on this issue.
Well, they're not, because we're seeing these very same laws being introduced and passed. Just, Governor DeSantis in Florida just signed a similar law. We've got them active in other places, which should be the clue to anybody watching that this is a political ploy, not some sincere effort to fix something that was wrong and unique in Georgia's election process, because obviously it's a coordinated effort to suppress votes in states that were swing states, and it's a big yawner. Nobody cares. The damage has been done, and he'll have to look for publicity in another state, I presume.
Martha, do you agree with Kathy? Was this just a political ploy?
No, it's not a political ploy. I think it's an important issue, but of course Kevin McCarthy's got his own problems in his own caucus that this does divert from. But I certainly don't think that looking at election laws across the country, if you look at it historically, after the 2000 election, after the 1960 election, you saw these kinds of things that happened. We have historical backup, but we're not seeing, this is not going to be voter suppression, and I guarantee you we're going to have the biggest turnout we've ever seen in 2022. It will not be voter suppression.
Bobby, last word on this.
I just can't believe Kevin McCarthy is doubling down on the big lie about Donald Trump and whether he was able to win electoral votes in states that he clearly lost. And the fact that he's trying to oust his own member of his conference chair, Liz Cheney, who Democrats have never spoken good words about in the past, but she has stood up to the big lie, is truly shocking. It's embarrassing, and it may end up costing them the House.
Okay, I lied. Phil, I'll give you 30 seconds because I know you want to respond.
Well, this is ridiculous. Bobby parroting this big lie theory. Bobby, have you ever heard of Fulton County? It's the most populous county in Georgia.
Yes, I live
every
here.
Cycle. They have fraud. I know you do, and that's why I don't understand why you continue to parrot this myth, because there's fraud and mismanagement, and even the leading Democrat on the Fulton County Elections Board says that Richard Barron has mismanaged everything and should be fired. That's your Democrat colleague. There is fraud in Georgia and every other state, and why don't you admit it?
I would love to know, Phil, point blank, who do you think won Georgia in the 2020 election, presidential?
Well, I'm gonna respect the fact that Biden won. That has nothing to do with what I've just challenged you on. Have you ever figured out there's fraud here?
Okay. Well, there you have it. Joe Biden won.
We will leave it there, everybody. Thank you, because coming up, we'll have winners and losers. Stay tuned.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
All right, we'll start off with Martha. Happy Mother's Day, Martha. And we've got about 4 minutes in this block just to let everybody know.
Well, thank you. I just want to take my moment of winners and losers to just kind of talk about vaccines for just a second. I say the winners are the people that got the vaccines to the table so quickly for people to be out there. As many of you know, I had a very serious respiratory event at the end of the year last year. And so I had to wait a few months to take the vaccine, but as soon as I was able to do it, I did it. So the winners are the people that developed this vaccine and got it out. And the losers are the people that perpetuate these lies about the vaccine. Get out, get it, get back to normal, and we need to work as one group of people on this particular issue.
All right, Kathy, I think you'd agree with Martha on that. Over to you.
Yeah, I'm going to make Martha the big winner for saying that. Thank you, Martha. I couldn't agree more. Listen, I want to say Happy Mother's Day out there to all the mothers. And I would say that the mothers of the world have been the big winners this year, carrying double and triple duty, keeping kids at school at home and taking care of family and all the other things that women do every day. So Happy Mother's Day, Mom, and Happy Mother's Day to everybody else. Also need to say the other big winner is Karen Janae, my wife. We have been married we've been together for 33 years. Obviously, we couldn't be married that long, but our anniversary was this week, and I just want to thank her for putting up with me for 33 years. That is indeed a winner. And I'm not going to pick out any losers. I'm just in a happy mood because it's so nice and sunny outside.
Happy anniversary. All right, Phil, we got some time here, so we can go back here. 3 minutes.
All right. Well, I'll join in on the Happy Mother's Day, and I do agree there was a lot of moms out there, and of course dads too, but they were helping the kids with their schoolwork, and it was a rough year. And of course, I think school systems are very foolish not to allow now in-person learning, and I'm glad the university system is doing in-person classes. And there was another winner too. Several winners were bills that were signed by Governor Kemp this past week and passed somewhat on a bipartisan basis. And that is, it made it more affordable and easier to adopt children. In fact, there were bills that made it easier for children to find families and homes easier. So that's a big winner. And we talked a little bit earlier about Governor Kemp rightly visiting the border and seeing the humanitarian crisis there. Where are our Democratic senators, Warnock and Ossoff? I think every governor ought to visit the border. The president refuses to. He's got blinders on. He refuses to visit the border. Where are the Democrats? I thought everybody was opposed to human trafficking. It's a horrible thing. Atlanta is one of the centers in the United States. So I think these are all losers.
All right. Bobby, we usually don't respond to the winners and losers, but you could respond to Phil on that and then give me your winners and losers because we've got some time. We got about 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, first of all, happy anniversary to Kathy. I also want to say happy Mother's Day to my mother and to my wife, who has held the fort down here for the better part of the last year and a half since all this COVID stuff broke out. I also want to say that the winners are, and if I'm correct on this, that Fulton County schools have decided to be back in person fully next year, which is a huge win for the parents and the children who are going into schools, as they do need to be in person learning, especially the younger kids. At this point, that's why we've had the opportunity to get teachers vaccinated who want them. And I agree with Martha. I hope as many people take this vaccine as possible, because it's going to allow us to get ourselves back to normal as quickly as possible. And then as far as a political winner, I think Doug Shipman, who is running for city council president, full disclosure, he is a client of ours, but he has just posted a big fundraising number for a first-time candidate in a city council president race. And obviously we've had a lot of discussion about the mayor's race, but there are going to be several races on the ballot in Atlanta in the coming year, and it's going to be interesting to watch all that play out. And I'm going to join Kathy in not naming a loser today, because it's a beautiful day. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. You make the world go round.
That's awesome. Thanks, everybody. And we'll, of course, be watching and waiting and discussing when all of those candidates make their announcements, especially now in the city of Atlanta, which, as Bobby put it, a political earthquake. Thank you, everybody. And I want to wish a special and a happy Mother's Day to all of this, the mothers of special needs kids who wake up day in and day out and just love on those kids and unconditionally. A special happy Mother's Day to all of them, and to all of us who have lost our moms. It's a bittersweet day, I know, but happy Mother's Day, and we will see you again next week. Thanks, everybody.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.